Exactly. Right. Hey. Dun, 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 people are coming. Entranced by Jeremy's beautiful piano playing.
Oh, God. What song isn't in the show anymore? Change that. Sorry.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting, we can always play the old opening number for the show. In the very first version of Fractured, there was a very different opening number to the show besides Smell the Roses. And, well, there were a lot of different openings for this show. But, yeah. I decided it wasn't the right tone to start the show on because it was a little bit more spooky and stuff. I want it to be not so spooky in the beginning. Just for you, Rachel. I guess we can start talking about stuff and hope that the people come.
Unless you want me to keep playing?
I mean, I do like your playing.
Playing music on Facebook!
But look, it's Gregory! Or we can just start, talking.
Here, I'll, underscore you so it sounds really dramatic.
No, I don't want it. That's okay.
Aaron's gonna talk now!
That is how most of our life goes.
Aaron's gonna talk now. Aaron's gonna talk now.
Hey, Jeremy, why don't you sing a song to, be like a little prequel, number, a prelude to the live stream about the live stream. And then we can start talking about the show.
Sad music is sad. I'm gonna sing about the live stream. Gonna sing about the show. We're gonna sing about this fractured songs. Fractured song. It's so mysterious. Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They are sad.
And they're different actors.
They're different actors. And they are sad. And Aaron is smiling at me, which makes me kind of uncomfortable. I don't know what to sing.
Alright.
But that rhymed and that's pretty neat.
Cool.
Cool.
So fractured.
So now that I've thoroughly embarrassed myself.
We're gonna talk about serious things.
Yeah. Well, hi guys.
Hi guys.
Hi.
So you can feel free to ask questions the whole time.
Aaron, you should introduce yourself.
I'm Aaron Phillips.
And I'm Jeremy Phillips. We're married.
We're with the Faithful Troubadour.
We are the Faithful Troubadour.
We are the Faithful Troubadour.
Yeah.
So we wanted to just do a little live stream today to talk about Fractured, the mysterious case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. About the musical. It'll be available for licensing in May.
Woohoo!
Jeremy just has to score stuff, and I have to finish writing devotionals.
It's important.
But we're really, really passionate about this show and about the message in it and the themes. And so we wanted to do this live stream to talk about it a little bit because Fractured is like really different from the original story in a lot of ways because the setting's different, a lot of the characters are different, and it's very different from your typical Jekyll and Hyde story. Because you think of Jekyll and Hyde and you think of, Hyde walking around killing people and being super scary and it being much more like just dark and brooding and stuff.
Yeah, we think of, generally Jekyll and Hyde is considered like a gothic tale, which in the original narrative it was very much in that style. Fractured is not. Fractured is much lighter. We keep the same basic plot outline just to make sure that it's because why else would we use it?
It's a good story. So.
It's a good story, but we changed a lot of it, not only to make it more palatable for all ages and for all audiences, but also to further emphasize the theme of the show. So we altered the setting and different things like that to make it specifically better catered to what the moral and the message of the show was.
And if you watch the vlog that we did about Lizzie O'Connell a while ago when Ellie Fajon recorded Hide and Seek for us, we talk about moving it to the 1940s, which is where our Fractured takes place. Has a lot to do with the main character Lizzie, and wanting her to be like a super cool investigative journalist because that's the coolest job there ever is.
It's Aaron secretly hopes to one day leave me and leave all this behind and become an investigative journalist.
I mean, it's they find out about corruption and crime and then they write about it.
I've come to terms with it. It's fine.
So that's a big reason why we changed it from the traditional Victorian setting. And putting it in the 1940s definitely makes it a lot more relatable for modern audiences because even though it's still a historic time period, the characters are much closer to where we are now and society is much closer to how it is now. So it makes it a little bit more relatable in some ways. Not that the Victorian period can't be, but
I think just setting it in a time period where people they speak closer to how modern English works. The music has a very distinct style that we can reference and pull from, although this is definitely not going to be authentic 40s jazz. We don't claim it to be, but it is influenced by that, and we take that and apply it to sort of a modern rock sound to make things fun and fresh and exciting.
Yeah, and we really wanted the show to have a lot of brightness and a lot of color in it because we think that's really important because we really believe that this show is appropriate for all ages and is a great show for parents to be able to have dialogue about things and the message that we will talk about.
We'll get to that a little later. So today, guys, thank you for joining us. We are going to go through some of the characters in Fracture that you guys may not have heard about yet. Talk through them and sort of their origins and their personalities and what role they play in the story. We're going to sing a few songs, which will always be fun. And we're also going to talk in more in depth about the themes and our motivation for why we think this show is so important and why we care so much about what this show has to say.
Yep. And really quick, Greg Greg went to school with me, asked about our post art, which is over here, is done by... that was created for us by Zachary. I don't know if it goes by Zachary Meeker.
I think Zach is fine.
Zach Meeker. And he also did our logo for our company. He did the Scarlet poster.
This one.
That one.
This one.
That one. And he's creating one for us right now for Fairy Tale. He is super excellent graphic artist man and an amazing performer and singer. He did Smell the Roses for us. He recorded that. And he also played the sheriff in Scarlet. He's a man of many talents.
He's a man of many talents.
Yeah.
We really appreciate Zach. He's the bomb.
Yep.
Anyways, so would you like to talk about...
Let's go ahead and talk about the main theme first that really motivated the show.
Okay.
And
do you want to go over what Jekyll and Hyde is originally about?
Oh, okay.
People may not know that.
Yeah, our story is definitely, it plays around with the story a little bit in our version of it, but in the original version of Jekyll and Hyde, there's Dr. Jekyll, and the main character is actually this lawyer who's observing him. So it's not really personal with Dr. Jekyll.
Right. Henry Jekyll is this scientist who's a bit of a recluse, who's a bit of a local legend, and an eccentric. There's also been a series of crimes that's been happening. This is set in London?
Victorian
London, I think. And this lawyer is investigating these crimes, and they're linked somehow to this person, Dr. Jekyll. So it's revealed over the course of the novel that Dr. Jekyll has been experimenting on himself to create an alternate...
Like an alter ego.
An alter ego called Mr. Hyde.
And it's like in the book, he like transforms physically, like becomes this completely new person. And he says in the book, it's so that he can go in and exploit his vices pretty much and not feel bad about it.
So he can live out every dark fantasy and weird thing that he has in the safety of being a different person without feeling any guilt because it's not him doing it, it's Edward Hyde. Yeah. So it's a very sad story. It's a novella, so it's very short. You can read it in a day, and we recommend it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Fractured, we took that story, and first of all, we set it in 1940s Chicago, and we took sort of this idea of the split personality thing and turned everything kind of sideways. So in our story, we still follow Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Mr. Edward Hyde. They're still characters. They're separate actors. It's really important. They are different people. Kind of as the story progresses, we see how that works. We also have Lizzie O'Connell, who is an investigative journalist who we've talked about before. Up and coming. She wants to be one. Yeah. She's not one at all. But she is investigating a series of crimes.
Yeah, she's looking for her big break story, the story that's going to make her be super awesome.
So that's Fractured. And past the basic plot line, what we're dealing with is sort of a twofold message, sort of a theme that we're kind of conveying for the audience.
Yeah, so the first one is probably really... obvious in a lot of ways. I think a lot of people think of this when they think of Jekyll and Hyde, is in Romans 7, Paul is talking about pretty much the war between our sinful flesh and our spiritual self in Christ. And specifically in verse 19 he says, "For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing."
Right. So the gospel states pretty clearly that so Christ saves us from sin. There's this idea that Jesus died for us. What that means is that we have absolute reconciliation with God through Christ, that we can accept a free gift of justification, essentially, and be presented saying that this person is blameless because I took the penalty for what they did do. However, with that... Paul is writing in Romans saying, but don't forget that we are still human and we're still going to mess up.
Yeah, he goes on to say in verse 20, "Now, if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me."
Right. So we have sort of the spirit and the flesh kind of at war within each of us. And that's where we find ourselves as human beings. And so we are constantly clinging to the hope we have in Christ, but at the same time repenting and fighting sin and understanding that's a constant battle in every Christian's life. And so we want to not hide sin away. We don't want to be ashamed of it, but to always be seeking to fight it and to help each other fight it, especially.
So obviously in Fractured, Dr. Jekyll, there's this war going on between Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and lots of shenanigans, but essentially which one is gonna come out in control. And it's very, very much so supposed to be an allegory of Mr. Hyde being like temptation to sin and our sinful flesh wanting to do these things, and Dr. Jekyll being like he wants to be like a good person. But
he's actually doing experimenting on himself to try and remove evil, like remove that sin aspect of himself. He's specifically saying, I can just save myself. I can be so perfect because I'm going to make myself perfect.
Yeah.
And that's where we have all these problems.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work.
So that is the first main theme in Fractured, and very much the thing that we think will be very relatable for everyone. Everyone who is a Christian struggles with fighting sin, and that whole thing, and even someone who's not knows of that inner conflict of wanting to prove that they're a good person, and trying to be saved with moralism, which is never going to work out.
Trying to just be good enough.
Yeah, trying to be good enough to outweigh their sins.
Right. So, however, as we were writing, so that was the original plan. That we started that about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? Almost 2 years ago, we started this project, and we were working with that as our theme. And we wrote a draft, and we kind of came to the realization as we were writing that there is, that in order to really explore this story and this narrative, there is so much that comes out about mental illness, specifically clinical depression.
Yeah, well, and a big part of that was, we weren't really aware of it until this past summer. We were working on Scarlet, producing it with Spiritual Twist Productions, and we had kind of come to a big roadblock with Fractured, thought about giving it up, not really sure what to do with it, and just I couldn't stop thinking about it, and Jeremy couldn't stop thinking about it, and just having this aha moment, of inspiration, seeing that, the whole time in the story we already had was Henry suffering with depression the entire time, and that became really important to us because one of the concerns that we had early on was that it was too dark for families, and so we did end up cutting a lot of things out, like the first song, changing some other songs, changing some ways some scenes worked.
Just trying to make it, because the message is more important than the show, the narrative. And so we don't want to do anything that's going to hinder people getting that message. Yeah.
And so a big part of that was, if we want this show, or every show we write, to be accessible for all ages, or most ages.
All ages.
Yeah, parents can make things. But, that is themes dealing with depression and suicide is that appropriate for, 8-year-olds. And so I did a lot of research, and you can read the playwright's note that's on our website at faithfultroubadour.com. If you go to the musicals and then Fractured section, you can find the playwright's note down there. And that talks a lot more deeply about the statistics and things like that. But depression is definitely something that affects kids as young as 7, and is especially rampant between ages 10 and 25. So to say that it's not appropriate to talk with 10-year-olds, I think, is not being super well informed as to how our culture is going these days.
The reality is that depression is, it is really widespread. It is really common. It's getting more and more common with young people. And part of the issue that we're seeing is that, honestly, I work in a church, and I love the local church, but the church often is ill-equipped to deal with talking about depression.
Yeah, and a lot of times in the church comes with this either era of not wanting to talk about it because people don't feel equipped to, or condemnation and just not understanding what it is, and
suggesting that you can just wish it away, or that it's not really there, it's just
that you don't have enough faith, which are all misconceptions about what depression is to begin with. And so that was one part, and then suicide is another thing we deal with in Jekyll and Hyde. If you've read the original story, then you know the original story ends with the suicide of Henry Jekyll. And is that appropriate? And super sad. I hate talking about it, but I think it's really important for understanding our heart for this show that suicide is actually the second leading cause of death for kids between the ages of 10 and 18, which you don't think of a 10-year-old even knowing what suicide is or having any reason to do it. But even just, I think it was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, there was an 8-year-old boy who committed suicide, and that went all over the internet. And I think we really want Fractured to be something that equips parents to talk with their kids about these things.
Providing a safe environment for them to like have a vocabulary to speak about depression, using the characters in the show as sort of as a vehicle to start conversations that would otherwise be kind of intimidating. For parents who want to talk to their kids, or for kids who are afraid to talk to their parents, giving them something real that they can say, okay, it's like in Fractured when this happened.
Yeah, and so it's really we feel like this is really important to us to see it produced, and even in the read-throughs we've had, really seeing the Holy Spirit do a lot of work through it, which for us is really encouraging and I mean, a great honor to see that happening with our work. And so we have a really big heart for this project, and a really big heart for people, especially youth suffering from depression and suicidal thoughts and self-harm, and those are things that we want to have conversations about from a Christ-centered perspective, and not leaving that out. And I think that's what helps make Fractured so powerful for me, especially, is like the hope that is in Fractured is not, if you had enough faith or if you became a Christian, like this would go away, which I think is really important. That it's not something that fixes it. It's that Jesus helps us fight. He helps us fight sin. He helps us fight depression. He gives us hope.
And this idea that, I mean, like, we are the first people to attest to the power of prayer. Like, it is a real thing. It makes a difference in lives, and the Holy Spirit is active in our life. But when facing a clinical disease, it is wise to pray, and it is also wise to seek help. And we talk about that in the show, and not to say that one or the other is all you need, but to say that both is really what Christ has called us to and what Christ has equipped us with now in our culture. So there's lots of different kinds of things. I mean, it's a very heavy concept, and it's very pressing to us to get this information out to people. And we really see this show as a means to that, as a means to talk about these things. I mean, it's entertaining, it's a fun show, it's colorful, it's not a dark and gloomy show by any means, but the motivation behind it is very serious, and it's very close to us, and so we get really passionate talking about it.
So you can read that Playwright's Note, which talks a lot more about that. It has not been proofed yet, so just so you know, I need to still do that.
That
but
would be good.
You can go read that. There's a lot of statistics there and a lot more about our heart and about the theme for the show in that, and that is on our website. And just a reminder, you can ask questions anytime.
Yeah, feel free to just comment with a question. We have it open. Erin's got it open on her phone, and we'd love to talk to you guys. I mean, we can just talk at you for 45 minutes, but we're really wanting to just engage you. So questions about anything you want. Doesn't have to necessarily even be about Fractured, although that is the focus of the stream.
Questions about Fractured we'll answer immediately. If you have questions about other musicals, or you can try and persuade Jeremy to play a song from Atlantis or something, or Fairy Tale, we'll save all of those things for the end so we can keep the stream more focused on Fractured for now. Because Fractured is going to be our next available show in May, and Fairy Tale will be after that just in time for the 2017-2018 season. So we wanted to...
So much work. It's fine. I'm fine.
So thinking about our themes, about all this stuff, we wanted to play a song from the show called Let Me In. And this song is the first time that Henry and Edward Hyde meet. You kind of get the gist of it in the song, but pretty much Edward comes up, Mr. Hyde, comes up to Henry's office or study, like he has a door and stuff.
It's his house, basically.
It's his house. And he knocks on the door, and it's raining outside, and he's seeking shelter. And Henry is very reclusive. He's very antisocial, and very much, he turns him away, but very polite. And Hyde sings this song, and we'll talk a little bit more about Hyde's character and how he's a little different from your typical Hyde character after this, but enjoy a little song from Jeremy.
It Excuse me, sir, might I inquire, could you share your home? For just a brief stretch of time, spare me from this cold. I know you see me, please don't ignore me. Let me in. Excuse me, sir, but may I say that fire looks delightful? The wind has chilled me to my bones. Have pity, unlock your door. Allow me to entice you, friend. You must feel very lonely. You could use some company. You'll feel much better once you let me in. You might as well open up that door. I assure you I will get in somehow. I am begging you to show some simple kindness. I will promise not to misbehave. So open up that door. I assure you I will never back down. And believe me when I tell you that you won't regret giving me a place in your home. I know you see me, you can't ignore me. Let me in. I'm not leaving. I can see you, Henry.
And what ends up happening after that is Henry says, no, I'm not going to let you in, but you can sit outside my window and we can talk.
And this brings us to the main crux of this character. So Edward Hyde is typically portrayed as an angry and violent and ugly person. However, in the way that we perceive the temptation of sin and also the way that we feel the pressures from depression, we portrayed Hyde as charming and manipulative and intelligent. We specifically wanted him to be sort of very kind of like a snake, kind of sneaking his way into Henry's life, convincing him that they're friends and that he'll feel better once he develops a relationship with Hyde. And that's similar not only to sin and the way that temptation works, but also the way depression works and the way that it's so pervasive. It just keeps knocking and knocking and knocking, and you just you get a little bit closer to it until you finally succumb, and then it's very, very difficult to get it to leave.
Yeah. So, so this scene is a really important scene, I think, just for the themes in the show, because it shows visually and audibly that both sin and depression, they're the kind of things where, you think you can control it, or that
just letting it sit at your window
will be okay.
Is okay.
Yeah, because you're not letting it inside, and just seeing the danger and even, playing around with it.
Yeah.
And then he stays alone with Edward.
And he spends time talking to him, and they get to know each other while he's outside his window. He comes night after night, and they continue to have these conversations, and he continues to let Edward kind of infect his mind and get under his skin. And we get to learn more about how he's convincing and he's persuasive. And that is the danger of this temptation.
Yep. So that's let me in. So you want to talk a little bit about some of our major minor characters?
Yes. Okay.
So Lizzie and Henry and Hyde will often refer to Dr. Jekyll as Henry, and Edward Hyde is either Edward or Hyde, but Lizzie, Henry, and Hyde.
Names, yeah. We should call them Jekyll and Hyde. It would be easier.
I know, it's just weird. Because everyone calls him Henry. But we have some other characters, really colorful characters throughout the show. First, we can talk about Mr. Poole and Mrs. Westcott.
Yeah.
So Poole and Westcott. Poole is a character from the book. He is
Mr. Poole.
Mr. Poole. He is Henry's butler, and he fulfills that same role in this show. And then we have Mrs. Westcott, who is his housekeeper.
I think Mr. Poole is very much being sort of a bit of a confidant and a bit of like a faithful, always there companion. You know, he's sort of
Alfred.
He's the Alfred. Yeah, very much so. Very much like ultimately concerned with Jekyll's well-being, is always there looking out for him, offering him advice. Even though he's often goes ignored, he never gives up.
And then Miss Westcott is basically Mrs. Potts.
Basically, Mrs. Potts. She's a housekeeper. But more than that, she is also...
She's very, compassionate would be the number one word.
She's compassionate. She sort of is a mother figure almost to Jekyll, just being very loving and very patient with him as he's continuously kind of shirking his own responsibilities, and, you know, often her efforts go unnoticed, but she is faithfully just loving on him and being kind of a solid sense of security for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we have Inspector Oscar Pearson.
Oscar. We like Oscar a lot. He is kind of the typical kind of grouchy, aged detective.
Yeah.
He's a policeman. He's just so tired. He's been on the force for a long time, and he's just tired of the repetition of going through the same crime scenes and the same criminals and the same locations for his whole life, and he's feeling like he never makes any difference.
Yep, and he's very discouraging of Lizzie and always trying to tell her to go away and stop snooping around his crime scenes and stuff like that. So we have a little snippet of, it's on the other sheet, of the end of a song that Oscar sings in the first crime scene we encounter in the show, which is scene 2. And Lizzie and Trip come upon this scene, and we'll talk about Trip in a minute. And Oscar's interrogating witnesses, and that's when they first learn about Mr. Hyde. And at the very, very end, Oscar sings this little bit.
Year 34, every day is the same. Same crime scene, same dirty street, nothing changes. This schmuck's been robbed 3 times this year, and we ain't even made it to June. Another unsolvable case, another criminal getting away. It's just another day in Chicago.
So that is Oscar's theme. He sings it a couple times in the show. And then we have Trip Flanders. We talked about it a little bit in our last live stream. Trip is Lizzie's sidekick buddy / friend-zoned friend.
Yes, he's her assistant, and he's secretly in love with her, and she has no idea. One of those, you know.
Yep, one of those. Yeah. And then we also have Edgar. Gosh, he has a last name.
Edgar, isn't it Chauncey?
Oh yeah, Edgar Chauncey, because it's Trip Flanders and Edgar Chauncey.
We gotta have the 2 names.
So Edgar is the newspaper editor at the Chicago Tribune, and he is the editor from Spider-Man.
With the mustache.
And he is
he's a cutthroat newspaper editor.
Yeah, very much so. Very like hard on Lizzie, but he like really loves Trip. Like, he thinks Trip is, like, this golden boy, but Lizzie is like, blah.
Do we put an option for this to be female?
Yes, there is an option in the script for Edgar to be a woman, Eileen, because there are quite a few larger male roles in this show, and so we wanted to allow some of that flexibility.
Yeah.
Although, overall, like, I think on the website I say Fracture could be done with as little as 15 people.
There's much less roles.
Yeah, it's a very compact show, but a lot of these scenes, like A Man Called Hyde, which that last little bit was
pretty much most scenes have some kind of
almost
chorus
every
moment.
scene has at least a big chorus moment or a way for the chorus to interact with the song. So it's very much the kind of show that has, you know, the main characters and then a lot of other people.
Right, we specifically wanted to create a very vibrant stage. So a lot of the songs are specifically written for choreography to be an option, for them to be fun and good energy, and there's a lot of room for the chorus to sing as well. in a lot of these songs.
Yeah,
There are very few songs that are pure solos in this. Most of them have some sort of chorus option.
Yeah, I mean, the only ones that are pure solos are Shame and When Dreams Collide, both of which you can hear on our YouTube account. Though Shame, you might add some backup stuff, too.
Maybe.
No. Okay. But Edgar has one of my favorite songs in the show, and Jeremy's going to sing a little bit from that. It's just a very fun song. This song used to be sung by Oscar in an earlier version of the show, and we were like, nope, this doesn't seem right, and then we moved it over to another scene and had Edgar's son sing it, and it was like perfect for him. So it's one of my favorite ones in the show. It's called People Want Heroes. Take it away.
Chicago ain't known for its peaceful parks or summertime festivals. People are aware our Chicago air breeds miscreants and criminals. So when they open the papers, they don't want to read that the streets here are dirty, politicians are dirty, and things are all rotten here. The people want heroes, they want Superman, someone who can clean this town up. People want good news, they want silver linings, where the White Sox always win. And people want to believe that regardless of fact, in the blink of an eye, things will turn out just fine. 'Cause people want heroes, people want heroes.
And that's a little bit from People Want Heroes, which is one of my favorite songs. I definitely imagine a lot of fun things that a director could do with that song, involving the White Sox and Superman and puppies.
It's very silly.
So those are some more of our minor characters that we run into in the show. So if you have any questions, you can ask them about Fractured, or a song you want to see, hear. You won't see it, really, but you'll put it in your ears.
Such a weirdo.
Yeah. So.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the plot.
Okay.
People probably want to know what the plot actually is of this show. We're not going to spoil anything too major, but we can at least go through the basic idea of how things go.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but it starts off with Henry is doing this experiment to remove, the sinful nature from himself, to make himself completely void of any desire.
He says he wants to cure evil.
Yeah.
Cure the world of evil. And so, in the first sequence, we learned that he was having trouble finding a test subject, so he's just using himself. Which is a terrible idea. Never works out. Spider-Man didn't work out. Didn't work out here either. So we follow that Henry hits a big high at the beginning of the show when he feels like it worked. Mm-hmm. And we hear there's this song that he sings called "Smell the Roses," which is our opening number, which is about sort of the high of feeling like you're fixed. And of course, we know that he's not.
Yeah. And I wrote a whole blog post about that song and just about a little bit of behind it. And there was a poem that I read that really inspired the lyrics for the bridge of that song. So if you go to our blog and our website, you can find out a lot more about that.
Or you can listen to the song on YouTube and Facebook. The videos are up there as well.
The brilliant Zachary Meeker, who does our graphic art,
also sang the song.
Yeah,
he's good. So we also, at the same time. Meanwhile, it's learned that, surprise, surprise, a string of crimes is beginning to be committed in Chicago, all under this person who calls himself Mr. Hyde. And Lizzie is basically sort of sneaking into all these crime scenes that Oscar is investigating, much to his annoyance, to take notes and to try and piece together a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so she sings Hide and Seek, which is another one we've recorded, another demo from the show, which is her at the second crime scene we see her at. Just really, I mean, she is just sold on this idea that Mr. Hyde is committing all these crimes and she's gonna expose him and it's gonna be her big break. And but to Oscar, it's just like, no, you don't know, like, this is just how it is in Chicago. Like, people commit crimes all the time. And this is during the time of, like, Al Capone, and there was just a lot of corruption.
The mayor was corrupt.
Yeah, just all throughout Chicago. So,
yeah.
It's a very good time period for that.
Anywho,
thing.
so as we go on, Henry starts to see and meet Hyde. We heard the song Let Me In earlier, and we start to see that he's starting to unravel as he realizes that there are big side effects to what happened to him, and he's not as cured as he thought he was. And meanwhile, Hyde is convincing him slowly over the course of the show, especially throughout Act 1, that there's no real such thing as evil to begin with, and then eventually he reveals that the experiment that he did was really creating Edward Hyde.
Yep. So.
And so Henry starts to feel really guilty about the realization that he hasn't actually done any good. He's actually made things worse.
And that's when you hear Shame.
Which is another song that's on YouTube, sung by Noah Schwartz, who's the bomb diggity.
And Noah is actually the one who helped Jeremy with recording the entire soundtrack for Scarlet.
Yeah, he was my recording assistant. He was super, super talented.
Super smart.
He was in the Scarlet cast. He also helped us with... with the technical side of recording things, he's really sharp. He's in college now. And he sang the demo for Shame. So go look that up on YouTube. It's fantastic. It was before we even knew what we were doing with filming, so it doesn't look as good as
we did it right here in this room.
But Noah did a great job, and it sounds really good.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Act 1. Meanwhile, Lizzie has written a story.
But we don't want to tell the whole story.
Well, okay.
Gotta leave some mystery.
We
don't know if she'll write. We don't know if she'll get published in the newspaper.
We don't know if she becomes famous and successful and all of Chicago knows her name. We don't know. It might happen.
So so that's a little bit about where the story comes from. So it's following very much those two venues of the experiment and the effects of it, and then or the side effects, and Lizzie and her article, and the whole mystery story side of things, which is her perspective.
Do you want to talk about Margaret?
Oh, Margaret. So in the book, there's a
Margaret.
character named Margaret Page, who is a maid at like a local hotel, I think it is, or
At a something.
She's a maid, who is one of the witnesses to one of Hyde's crimes, and we really wanted to keep her and her story in our version of the show because we thought it gave a great solo moment for a female actress in the cast.
So just do a big song, song and dance number.
Because so often we find that in theater, you never have enough girls, or you never have enough roles for girls. There's always, plenty of guy roles, or you don't even have enough guys to fill all the guy roles, but there's always so many girls who are very talented and just never get a chance
every theater's different. That's just been our experience.
Yeah.
And when we get to talking about fairy tale, that addresses a lot of that. There's a lot of female roles in fairy tale. In Fractured,
you don't need no men for that show,
except for the men in the show.
Well, like 3.
But there are. It's definitely pretty balanced in Fractured. It's something that we just take very seriously because we understand that this is not this show is first and foremost for a cast. It's for a theater working with, especially with youth. And so we want it to be a fun and engaging experience for that cast. So everything we write will have a balanced gender ratio if we can help it.
We really try
for the sake of making sure that everyone gets a chance to participate. So enter Margaret Page.
Yeah. So she has this really fun number that has a really good dance number, just being at the police station.
It's fun. It's about murder.
But it has a great dance number. It could have like tap in it,
Yeah.
And she is at the police station giving her account of this crime that she's seen committed. And by this point, word about Hyde has really spread.
Everyone's starting to be afraid of this guy. And she basically witnesses the actual murder of the show, which is when Hyde literally kills someone. And it's a very kind of intense moment, and it plays it changes everything for the rest of the story. We wanted the song to take it seriously enough, but still have this kind of lightness to it. Some brevity.
We toned down this song quite a bit when we decided to rewrite it to make it more family friendly. So it can focus not on so much on being really graphic, but just telling her side of the story.
It was a dark and chilling night. I had just made myself some tea. After a long, hard day at work, some R&R is what I need.
What did you witness?
Beneath my balcony, a man came creeping down the street. He was quite sharply dressed, top a hat and cane, with wing-tipped feet. When along came Mr. Taylor, strolling idly by, the absent-minded, gentle soul turned and bumped the stranger's side. An argument, voices raised, hasty apologizing, but that was not enough. The stranger raised his cane. It was a dreadful sight to see, but I could not look away. Mr. Taylor learned some manners, but that lesson was his grave. Everywhere we turn, everywhere we look, every time we step on out our door, the windy city blows yet another rascal right into our neighborhood. But this one man, oh yes he was, a demented I suspect. Please sir, please catch him, what if I am next? This is the dance break. Etc.
Yeah, I forgot to change that lyric.
It's fine.
Hey. So, yeah, so that is...
That's Margaret. So,
Yeah.
that's sort of in Act 2, and that is the big catalyst for the rest of the show.
I mean, the only other character, named character, we have Joe Bags.
Joe Bags!
But we also have Alice, who is the cynical little waitress and coffee seller.
Yeah, if you watched our Smell the Roses video, Alice makes a guest appearance in that. She's a very cynical barista at a local
very
coffee shop.
pessimistic.
And she's just the grumpiest person. And
she shows up again a couple of times in the show.
Right.
Much to, you know.
her own annoyance.
Her own,
She just doesn't like anyone. And she especially hates Henry, who's so sunny and cheerful. And they keep running into each other. It's great. She doesn't sing. It's just a speaking role.
She's just a fun character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's great.
Yep.
Yep. So if anyone has any questions, you can ask them. And another good thing, you can let us know if you watch this now or if you're watching this later, if the live stream is something that works well, or if it would just be better to do vlogs or whatever. We want to do whatever is going to be the most accessible.
Yeah, it's fun to get to talk to you guys and to get to go back and forth. And to sing songs live on the air is kind of stressful, but it is fun. But if this format works for you guys, great. If not, we can always do something else. We're still learning how all this stuff works anyway.
Yep, so any questions about Fractured or about any of our other shows, Fairy Tale will be coming up next. And we have a demo coming out from that Very Good Princess, which
Yay!
Annika Snover has sung and done a really amazing job. So that'll be coming out probably next week. And speaking of next week, for anyone living in North Carolina and especially in the Charlotte area, Scarlet, The Outlaws of Nottingham is being produced at Charlotte Christian Theater. And that's going to be next Thursday through Saturday, so just one weekend.
Oh, we're so excited.
And tickets are free, and they've added more seats because of the response. So there are still seats left to get, but you want to get your tickets now. They're free, but you still have to reserve them.
I'm really excited. We did not touch the show at all. Like, we just are going to go and just watch it, which is really fun. And it's a very humbling experience to just be, to just put it out there. So it's really fun. We're excited to get to see it. And so we definitely encourage you guys to go head on over to Charlotte and check it out.
Yeah,
it's going to be rad.
They're doing a lot of really fun things, and a lot of things very different from when we produced it here in Garner.
Yeah.
So that is exciting.
Yeah.
And then Atlantis and Joan, we are still working on.
Yeah, those are our two that we go back and forth on in terms of which one we actually want to finish first. Each of them has Act 1 complete, and most of the songs are done in both of them. We just like them both. We just think they're both like such good projects to work on. And so you guys can always leave a comment on this video or on the videos that we put out about which one you're excited about, or if you have any questions about them. We're always excited to talk about Atlantis and Joan.
Yeah, so we have still a couple minutes left before we go. So if, Jeremy was to play one more song, and I didn't prepare him for this at all, but you can't stop me now. If you want him to play one more song, you can put a comment below with what show you would want to hear a song from. So either you could play something from Scarlet, you could play something you haven't heard from Scarlet.
It's been a while. I think.
You could play something from Fractured, from Fairy Tale, from Atlantis, or from Joan. You can leave that comment below, and in a little bit before we finish off, we'll see if anyone's left any comments. And we might play another little song.
We'll play one either way, but if you guys have one in mind, then we'll do that. Otherwise, I'll just pick one.
Yeah. So we're very excited about Fractured. We're still looking for a theater to premiere Fractured. It's weird because Jeremy's doing things. I have to look over here to think. Dion asks, what's the next demo we can be expecting from Fractured? Dion.
Yes.
Snarky little muffin.
The next song that we're doing from Fractured is the big confrontation duet between Henry and Edward. It's sort of the ultimate tension high point of the show, and Dion is one of the people singing it.
Yeah, so Dion will be singing Henry's part.
It's called Alone. It's one of our favorites. It's really yelly and exciting and big tension.
Yep, so Dion Castro is going to be singing that for us. And then Andrew Fajon will also be singing that with us, and he sang for and played Alan Adale in the premiere production of Scarlet.
Yeah.
Theater brings people together. It's great. So we're really excited about that song. We're not sure how many more demos we'll do after that.
For Fractured?
Big demos with the video and everything, because we're starting to switch gears a little bit more towards Fairy Tale. But if you do have a script for perusal, and there's a song in there that you want to hear that we don't have a demo of, you can always just send us a little message and ask for it, and Jeremy can record one of his lovely voice singing it on the piano to send to you.
Like that, but nicer.
So never be afraid to do that. We will have at least piano demos with Jeremy singing of every song for every show. So that way you'll never get a show and not be able to listen to a song.
Right.
Because we think that's really helpful. Kelsey says Atlantis play now.
Atlantis. Okay, I like Atlantis.
So if we're going to play a song from Atlantis, Kelsey, you win because you put a comment there. I think we should do the Brave song. Make everyone cry.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, in Atlantis, we have a couple different characters. We talked a lot about more in our last live stream. But one of the main characters is Matilda, call her Maddie. And she very much has a lot of conflict with her grandfather. Her parents have passed and she's under his guardianship. And there's a lot of conflict there and a lot of... it's just a very strong picture of, the parent or the guardian who is like, I know what's best for you, it is this thing. And a child who very much disagrees with that and is not being encouraged in the things that they really feel like they're meant to do with their lives. And so this song is Maddie finally, they're in Atlantis and all this stuff is happening, and she finally sings this song, really just expressing how a life like that has led her to feel. So it's super sad, guys.
I'll try my best. Whew.
So this was the last song we've written for Atlantis.
Look, there she goes, the world's greatest disaster machine. Everyone's favorite screw-up is at it again. Watch how she goes. Watch her skillfully sabotage every good thing in this life. She can't get it right. It's an art form, really. It's a terrible masterpiece. Isn't it fun to just watch her run around, making a mess, coming up short again? I wish I was brave, I wish I was bold, I wish I was anything else but a joke. I wish I was more, I wish I was most, wish I had sanity to just help me cope. Could I be more daring, more smart, more engaging? I wish I was brave. I wish I was brave. Look, there she goes, throwing herself at each fancy and whim, just trying to prove she's enough. Watch how she goes, watch her tripping and falling and tumbling and failing over and over again. I wish I was brave, I wish I was bold, I wish I was anything else but a joke. I wish I was more, I wish I was most, wish I had sanity to just help me cope. Could I be more daring, more smart, more engaging? I wish I was brave. Oh, why can't you see that I'm trying my hardest to just make you proud, to find my own way? Why can't you see all the times that I've fallen, a little girl straining to be told, maybe for once she won't be so small. I wish that you cared, I wish that you saw, I wish that you'd ask what I wanted at all. Wish I was more, I wish I was most, wish I had someone who just helped me cope. Would you be more caring and more understanding if I was brave? I wish I was brave. I wish I was brave.
So, yeah. So that's Maddie's big song in Act 2 from Atlantis. I feel like I have to talk all quiet because I'm like, all like emotions. But, yeah, so we care a lot about Maddie and her story in Atlantis.
Dealing with identity and pressures, and it's something very relatable and very personal for us.
Yeah, because we're in fields that are not the things that parents normally tell their kids to go for, unless your parent is also in ministry. But we're not lawyers or
right
big football.
So
players.
it's very. I mean, that's the. Oftentimes, songs like that will evolve from like something personal that we're feeling. That song didn't start as an Atlantis song. It started as a Jeremy song, and kind of as we worked on it, and we found a place for it. And we kind of redeveloped it to be something that Matilda would sing. Mm-hmm. But a lot of this stuff, just like with Shame from Fractured, or
Very Good Princess
from Fairy Tale,
or When Dreams Collide,
or like a lot of these songs are very personal for us, and putting them into a story helps us to work through our personal things as well. And it's the same way that an actor would be able to work through their issues by singing a song like that. So a girl would be able to take a song like Brave, and just it helps you to kind of work through issues and to have people to come alongside you and talk about these things with. And that's like a big part of why we do this.
Yeah, I mean, theater is super amazing. But we really, really want for our shows to be things that create vocabularies for parents and their kids and peers and directors and their cast to really have a mutual vocabulary, to have dialogue about these things that we see a lot of teenagers struggling with, but I mean even like us and people older than us, and
yeah,
themes of identity a lot of times are in our shows, of following the passions that God has put in your heart is a big thing we see in a lot of our shows, because those are things that God's really working in us, and that we really want him to be working in other people as well. all with, you know, the gospel at the center, because that is like the most important thing in everything.
So that's a summation of us and our life and our feelings. Guys,
Got super real there.
This has been fun. So thank you for joining us. Again, we are Jeremy and Aaron from Faithful Troubadour Publications.
And feel free to send us messages or comments below with any questions or comments or whatever. If you want us to do another live stream, you should say that. All of those kinds of things. And you can go to our website to find out all the other stuff. And sign up for our newsletter, because I send that out. Like,
because we have that.
Once every 3 months.
It's a great newsletter. It takes time. All right, guys, we are signing off. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Goodbye. Cheers.